Yeah.
Is this okay?
Yeah. Much better.
Okay, it's from a chapter called The Missing Voice. Ever since she had first arrived on the island, along with all the other people fleeing the country that had come up in the east, Leela had raised her voice in song for many reasons. She called for attention when officials were careless. She told stories of people fleeing in fear, and she sang love-long songs as well. Songs that became familiar to those who heard her, and so they knew of the man she was waiting for. That till Shyam arrived, Leela would wait, no matter how long it took him or how long the government took to decide the island's status. And then, with little warning, Leela lost her voice. This was something that had never happened before. There was nothing that could disappear from the island. There were the watchtower guards on the mainland with their telescopes, night vision glasses, the searchlights with the halo of night insects, the siren that blared like a mournful wail every time there was a suspected movement, and still a voice had gone missing. On the island, only a few days ago, there had been celebrations, first reported by Ronen Quito, the government's representative. That he had not anticipated the disappearance was a matter of severe embarrassment for him. The island had broken out into celebrations, for the government had finally made its decision. The headman had long given the government a trying time. There was a time he brought in paper by the boatloads and sent people to making maps. All the people who had come to the island from elsewhere, who were waiting for their papers to be processed, waiting as the government collected, assessed, discussed their claims. But the government, like most governments, took time over such things. If the island's status remained to be decided, nothing could be done about the people on it either. And to speed matters up, the headman drew maps, drawings of strange shaped objects with clear lines that would leave no one, especially the government, in any doubt that the island existed, especially on paper where it appeared a clear dot on a river. But the government would have none of this and confiscated, censored, and then blackened out parts of the map. The headman's maps thus came to have an ugly scar made by a sleepy clerk in a customs office who simply stamped on the paper hard with blotting ink. The headman persisted with his map making. The customs clerks got bored over time. And then someone in the government came up with a bright idea. He suggested that cargo boats be forbidden from docking and leaving the island. This would stop the headman from sending his maps out. For all these new rules, reports still came in of the secret boat that often rolled silently up to the island in the darkest hours of the night. There were also reports that the headman was using the doll makers, a word that was struck out by someone in the government and substituted with smugglers to send his maps out. The coast guards were thus always on alert. The headman pointed to the boxes of maps that stood on the pier unsent. If I was in cahoots with the smugglers, would this happen? He shrieked. The boxes formed tall columns and stood by the pier waiting for boats to dock, but they never did. Not the big cargo boats designed to carry paper boxes. The vegetable vendors came, as did the few fishermen, but they had passes and the government watched over them strictly. No paper, not anything with a map in it, ordered the government. And the headman stood on the pier yelling for all he was worth. Passing boats veered off course. Migrating birds dropped out of formation, disturbed by the sheer intensity of his shouts. And when his shouts were picked up by signal towers belonging to the other government, by the satellite dishes that roamed in fixed orbits in the skies, by distant ships, and when too many birds fell off the sky, dropping dead, the government had to take notice. That was when it was decided the time had come to placate the headman. "You're getting old, headman," said Ronen Quito. "Come to the captain and lead the government. We can sort this out." Ronen Quito leaned forward, smiled an unctuous smile, told him, in a confidential government whisper, that the government's real suspicions had never rested on the headman, but somewhere else. And his stubby government finger pointed beyond the headman's shoulder, where the moldy resided in his staff. "We know," said Quito. "We know it is not you, but the moldy who is acting against the government's interests. Oh yes, we know this all right." The headman, a thin, spindly man, worn down by his years of protest against the government, accepted Quito's explanation. It was true, he was getting old, and he had spent a long time on the island. It was time to go and see the impressive capital city where the government resided. The celebrations began and lasted several days. Leela had been noticed by him. She had even hummed the occasional song, as Gito noted. With so much joy circulating freely, the island did tilt over on occasion. But the government allowed that. Because, as long as people celebrated, they had no time to conspire, plot, and plan. The headman left behind the maps, Gandhi's spectacles enshrined in a specially built glass case, and also a 10-foot wooden ladder. But in the end, after all the celebrations were over, it was Leela's voice that could not be accounted for. It was inexplicably and irretrievably lost. How could a voice disappear? It was as if a thick cloud had unexpectedly and forcefully snuffed it out. Had Leela secreted it away herself, hidden it away to prepare for more protests against the government? Or was she hoping to use it to share secrets with the doll makers, who would one day return to the island? Or had the voice gone off on its own to look for Shah in places where the government could have hidden him away? For, and everyone knew this, Leela had been waiting for him a long time. Did the government know something about Shah no one else did? Something that stopped him from sailing across the river to Leela? Or, and this was the most sinister thought, did the government want Leela never to leave the island at all? With the voice gone, there was a quiet flow of the river on every side. The occasional spray rising in a whisper as the river jumped over the levees the doll makers had built, once strong but now unstable and crumbling. There was a sushing sound the river made as it caught the grass, washed away an errant boulder that strayed too close, and whirlpools gurgled, eddies swirled before easing away from the shore, but nothing brought out the voice.